If somebody is here, you can share this one. Sunday revision, science, and that's me. And yeah, if somebody is here, you can share this one. Sunday revision, right? No, 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 three, six, four, six, one, eight, which you can WhatsApp me. Okay, this is actually, even though this is revision science grade 10, right now we are discussing about the grade 10 lessons. This is designed for the all-level, our sons and daughters who are getting ready for this year's all-level exam. Well, what I'm trying here today is to draw your attention to the Newton's three laws of motion, and then blend it with the second unit, that is the motion of an object in a straight path and its relationship with the time. Okay, so what is Newton's laws of motion? Newton's laws of motion. Well, these three laws of motions deals with most probably with the force. And the first thing is to understand what is force. What is force? A force, F-O-R-C. A force is a pull or push. Force is a pull or push. You can have a push or pull, and you can have a pull. You can have a push. Force is measured in Newton. Measured in Newton, and it has both magnitude and direction. Therefore, it is a vector quantity. It's a vector quantity, as it has both magnitude, magnitude and direction or direction are there. What are the things that a force can do? It can do many things. It can do many things. They are, it can, it can change, it can change the velocity, it can change the velocity of an object. It can change the velocity of object, velocity of an object. It can change the velocity of an object. It can change the direction of motion, direction of motion, direction of motion, right? Uh, it can bring to rest position, rest position of a moving object, moving object. So there are lots of things that a force can do. Now, what is the relationship between the mass and mass, weight, force? Mass, weight, force. So what's the relationship between these three? Well, when I go to that one, children, this is so basic. I mean, if still there are children, those who do not have the very basic things, right? I am here giving them. And remember, um, I will show you how you will be taken to the hardest part. Lalithya, I see from Lalithya. I believe that you are coming from far end, right?
Sorry, sir.
Okay. And well, I'm going to give you the, yeah. As I told you, what is weight? What is mass? The first thing is mass. Or somebody says mass. I said mass. Mass or mass. What is mass? Mass is the amount of substance that an object has. It is amount amount of substance. Amount of substance of an object. An object. Amount of substance of an object is the mass measured in kilogram. Measured in kilogram. Gram. Milligram. But remember, when we are discussing about the physics, it is always kilogram, not gram. When it is about the chemistry, you can't have kilogram, it should be gram. For example, if we are calculating with the methods related to the moles and mixtures, concentration, we are considering there a grams per mole, something like that. So then, what is weight? Weight. Weight. Well, weight is it's a force. One. It's a force. It's a force measured in Newton. Measured in Newton. Right? Relationship between weight and mass is weight equal mass multiplied by gravitational acceleration. So um, weight is measured by, yeah, gravitational acceleration multiplied by mass. So then, for example, you can see example. Uh, example, mass of an object is mass of an object is mass an object is 100 gram. What is weight of it? What is the weight of it? Mass of an object is 100 gram. And what is the weight of it? So there you can. Now, as I told you, the relationship between mass and weight is that weight is weight is mass multiplied by gravitational acceleration. That is what we call the the weight. And one thing that we must consider is that uh, one thing that we must consider is that the mass should be taken mass should be taken from mass should be taken from kilogram. It should be kilogram. Now, gravitational acceleration is 10 meters per second squared. This should be in kilogram. This should be meters per second squared. Then the mass, given mass is 100 gram. Mass equal 100 gram. Convert it into kilogram by dividing it. It divide by 1000. Then you can have kilogram. So weight of the object is mass times gravitation, then equal 100 over 1000 multiplied by 10. The answer is 1 Newton. So weight is 1 Newton. Right. Then the story is about the mass and weight. What we are discussing here is that we started to talk about today. As I told you, we're going to talk about the uh, Newton's laws of motion. We want to know that there are three laws of motion relevant to Newton. First law of motion, second law of motion, third law of motion, and some calculations. But um, this will be going with the force, therefore we must understand some basics about the force. That's why I gave you some idea about force. The force is a push or pull or push rather, and measured in Newton. It's a vector quantity. It has a magnitude. It has a direction, and it can do many things. So we wanted to know the relationship between the mass and the weight. Well, the mass is the amount of substance and measured in gram or kilogram or milligram, but when it is concerned with the physics, you want to measure it in kilogram, not in gram. So in order to convert a gram into kilogram, you have to divide it by 1000. Then um, we just went on talking about uh, finding the weight of a given mass. When it is 100 grams, so it will exert 1 Newton force. Well, then, now still I'm not going to give you the question. Now, what is Newton's laws of motion? Well, the very first one, Newton's laws of motion, the one who came just now, welcome to the class, Newton's laws of motion. Newton laws of what is the first law of motion? First law. What is first law? When the first law is there, we call it law of inertia. We call it law of inertia. If I can have an object this time, I'm going to take my phone over here and I will keep my phone here. Right? And I have a sheet of paper, a sheet of paper. Right? I'm going to have my phone and the book and then the sheet of paper. I don't know what will happen if I pull from this paper and the phone is there. I kept on the. I'm going to pull this off. What will happen? The phone is there and the paper came out. You again, keeping the phone. This is not a magic. I'm going to explain the scientific phenomena behind this one. If I pull it by paper, the phone will remain there and paper comes out. Why is that? Because this is the law of motion, the first law of motion. And the same time, if I can have my duster in my hand, and I'm going to take my hand upward, and then going to stop my hand suddenly. When I stop my hand suddenly, this moves up. Why? The duster did not stop there. It went up when I stopped my hand there. So the two things are there. One, there is an object which is stationary. There is an object which is stationary. One object is there. It is a stationary object. Stationary object, right? Stationary object means one thing remaining in a particular place. When object is at a stationary position, when object is at a stationary position, it has two forces. One, the downward force, which is W, and the upward force exerted by the contact surface. The upward force exerted by the contact surface. So that is the normal reactive force, or we call R. If it is on a land, if it is on a land, uh, it is normal. Where did it go? Yeah, it is R, perpendicular force we can call. If this is on water and floating, it is the downward W and upward upthrust. It is upthrust that exerted the liquid on an object. So we are considering not this one, but considering this one. That is, when an object is kept on a surface, on any surface, then the object has two forces, one W downwards and perpendicular reaction, no normal reactive force, capital R upward. W equal mg, as I told you earlier. So R is also equal to W. Therefore, no motion downwards or no motion upward. No upward motion, no downward motion. So the forces acting on the object is at equilibrium. They are at equilibrium. The object is at rest. So the Newton refers to that sort of object. When when an object is when an object remains at a stationary position. When an object stays at a stationary position, the gecko says not to do this one, your phone might be dropped down, right? The object is at stationary position and it does not have any idea of moving or changing its stationary position. It does not have, even though I exert a force. I try to exert the force and I try to pull it off, but it does not come. Only the paper comes out. So Newton says when an stationary position is there, there is tendency of that stationary position, stationary object to remain stationary. Remains stationary, does not like to move. It wishes to stay in the same way that it was there. Second, when an object is in a motion, when an object is in a motion, this object is trying to move. Sorry, this object is in motion. Uh, when you think of an object and its motion, when you think of an object and its motion, it can have three types of motion according to our syllabus, according to our grade 10 syllabus. It can have three types of motion. One, the object might be moving with uniform or constant velocity. I will use uniform velocity. It goes with uniform velocity. That means it does not change its speed. When you think of the time duration and the position of the object, it always maintains the same speed. Motion in a constant or uniform velocity. I would like to represent it with a graph. If this one is, if this one is the y-axis and if this is x-axis, if this is y-axis, if this is x-axis, the motion is represented by this way, right? This is what it says. Remember, I'm going to blend this unit with the second unit. That is Newton's, sorry, that is motion of an object in a straight path and its relationship with the time. So this is velocity and this is time, considered in second, meters per second. And if this is 25, it's always 25, even though it passes the time. Even though it passes the time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, it's always same. Then when an object is in a motion, the motion can be uniform velocity. Second one, it can be in uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration. Acceleration. Right? Uniform acceleration. That means there is non-uniform acceleration as well, but we are not going to study in our grade 10 syllabus about the motion that has non-uniform acceleration. It's variable acceleration. It does not maintain the same increase rate of reaction. Rate of change of the rate of velocity, changing velocity. So rate of now uniform acceleration. The uniform acceleration is represented by this one, right? Uniform acceleration. I will show it in the same one. You can have uniform acceleration in this way. I will show it by using the green color line. So you can see uniform acceleration. This is uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration. This is constant velocity. Constant velocity. Now, uniform acceleration, constant velocity. Third one is uniform deceleration. Uniform deceleration. Uniform deceleration. Now look at that. Then object can be uniform deceleration. I will select blue color for that one. There is an initial velocity and it's going to get down. Right? So there is initial velocity and initial velocity. This one is uniform deceleration. Uniform deceleration. You should not uh, have a misunderstanding that if the y-axis is to extend further, right? So, is it okay with you, children? My explanation? Are you okay with it?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now you should not misunderstand that this one. What sort of motion is this one? What sort of motion is this one? This one? What sort of motion is this one?
And acceleration for the opposite direction.
Yeah. Is this negative acceleration or is it deceleration? You should
No.
not understand. This is not deceleration, even though it moves to the negative direction. This is acceleration. What sort of acceleration? Uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration, but the difference between this one and this one is this is to the particular direction. This is to the particular direction. Particular direction. Particular direction. And this is to the opposite direction. Opposite direction. Opposite direction. So what we are referring here is now, yeah, if you are to come back to my lesson, we are going to start to talk about the Newton's laws of motion, right? The first law of motion we are going to study, first law of motion. But for the first law of motion, Newton refers to 2 points. One, that object remains at stationary position. So it remains stationary. What is an object remains stationary? Like this. When an object is stationary, it has two forces. One, W downwards, normal reactive force, or perpendicular reaction upward, R. So these are together considered, and it is equal. So the object is at equilibrium. Forces are at equilibrium. It does not move. Why I tell you this one is that when a question designed with the Newton's first law of motion, it's just only the law of motion when you are asked to write the motion with the particular jargon. But you need to have some more parts from that. Therefore, I can make the question, sub questions by using this weight. So that's why I told you that here you can have a question like this. What is the mass of this? What is the weight of it? And the weight is measured with W as mg, mass times gravitational acceleration. So we did it. And then we went on talking about that. And then the second reference, the Newton's law of motion, is the object at a uniform velocity. So when an object is with a motion, it can have three types of motion, more than that, but for your syllabus grade 10, you can have uniform velocity. That means it always maintains the same velocity. I have put constant velocity, so I will use uniform word as well here. Uniform or the constant velocity. It maintains the same one. And second, uniform acceleration. It may be uniform acceleration to the particular direction. This one also uniform acceleration, and there is a velocity here, say -2 meters per second. Initial velocity is that one. And uniform deceleration, something like this. Well, we are not going to consider about the uniform acceleration, uniform deceleration now. We are going to consider the object is at its constant velocity. Good. Then, this is what? This is the law of motion. Let's analyze it with word by word. You have your textbook and you know how to tell it. I have it. I'm going to write and analyze it. Until an unbalanced force is applied. This is how I'm going to write it. Until, until, U-N-T-I-L, until an unbalanced force is applied. Until an unbalanced force is applied. Until an unbalanced force is applied. D. On it කියලා කියනවා මේක මේ wrong application in your language. You can't see for the pronoun before the noun, but it says until an unbalanced force is applied, comma, bodies at rest, bodies at rest, bodies at rest remain stationary, remain, R-E-M-A-I-N, remain stationary, S-T-A-T-I-O-N-A-R, remain stationary, and bodies, bodies means object, Bodies means object. Bodies, bodies in motion. Bodies in motion. Bodies in motion continue to move. Continue to move. I'm using the same words in the book. Move at uniform velocities. To move, continue to move at uniform velocities. Am I correct? To move at uniform velocities. To move at uniform velocities. Uniform velocities. Velocities. So look at them. Until an unbalanced force is applied, so that's the unbalanced force is applied, bodies at rest remain stationary and bodies in motion continue to move at uniform velocity. Now you can have bodies at rest. Bodies at rest remains stationary because it has upward force and downward force. So it means it does not have force. No, it has force. It has two forces, but they maintain their equilibrium. Means that both forces are same. If you can have an extra force on it, if you can have an extra force on it, then it will start to change its stationary position. But it does not like to change its stationary position. That's why even this lightest object, yeah, that one is a phone. Look at here. Even this one with very less force, it has to stay the same position rather than going with the paper, the sheet of paper. According to the Newton, the study, he said that object at rest remains stationary without changing its position and its wishes. Second, uh, bodies in motion continue to move at uniform velocities. So the bodies at uniform velocities will be maintaining the same velocity. That's why I show you when when I move my hand upward with the object on it and suddenly stop my hand here, the object tries to move upward. It goes upward. So that's the explanation about the first law of motion. So this can be used to ask the questions. What sort of questions can be asked? My my question that we can ask is that, so I will give you the questions later. Hmm, what can you tell about, sorry, I can say like this. An object of, I will write questions for your reference, something like this, something like this, something like this, right? An object, multicolored. An object, an object of, of 750 grams, 750 grams is traveling, is traveling with a uniform velocity. The number one. What is, don't write it, like it's not the questions that I should give you for your reference and do it. What is the weight of the object? Weight of the object. What is the weight of the object? Second one. What can you tell about the forces acting on the object? What can you tell about the forces acting on the object? The first one. What is the weight of the object? So you can write, sorry. What is the weight of the object? The weight of the object is 1 W equal mg. M is
75
700,
Newton.
750 upon 1000 to make it kilogram, and T is 10. Normally it is given. So the answer is, what is the answer? Cut. So you got 75 upon 7.5.
7.5 Newton.
7.5 Newton. The first one is okay. I mean, if a question is designed with the laws of Newton, and we are now perfect in answering at least one part. I'm just referring to the children, those who have very, very, very low approach to this unit. I mean, motions and laws of motion, right? Secondly, what can you tell about the forces acting on the object? Your answer. What can you tell about the forces acting on the object? Well, it has the force. Now, this is with a constant velocity. You know, in order to achieve a motion, right? This is in a stationary position, acting W downwards and R upward. To break that one, you have to give a force. So you are giving a push. You are giving a push by breaking the equilibrium conditions of the two forces acting downwards and upwards. Because of that, this will start to move. We will be discussing in the second law of motion, as to how we can give an accelerations to that one. I mean, it is in the stationary position, and you are going to increase, give a motion, means that it's going to have an acceleration to that particular mass of object, right? So we will discussing in the second law of motion. But now, because of the force exerted on that, it will achieve a velocity. So it's always maintaining the same velocity. So imagine that I'm going to throw this one parallel to the earth. So I'm going to throw this. Will it be continuing with the same velocity that I gave it by the time that it releases from my hand? The answer, I'm asking question again. When I throw this one, I mean release this one from my hand with an initial velocity like 20 meters per second, it's moving 20 meters within a second. Will it be continuing with the same speed?
No,
Why?
because the gravitational acceleration.
Yeah, there is another force acting on it, that is gravitational force. Even though this tries to move, the gravitation force tries to pull it down. That means there is unbalanced force acting on it. The unbalanced force that acting on this one is pulling, pushing down. Or it may be the force, opposite force exerted by the friction or the air resistance. There is air resistance. The air will be blocking the forward force. So then there is unbalanced force, right? Maybe gravitational force, maybe the friction exerted by the air, causing to reduce the velocity of that object. So that is why I can't imagine an object with a constant velocity when I throw it with initial velocity. It doesn't maintain its constant velocity until I ask to stop it. No. Therefore, what can you tell about the forces acting on the object when object hmm, traveling with a uniform velocity? Yes, the answer is the answer is they are they are balanced. They are balanced. That means the resultant force on the object is zero. They are balanced, or in other words, the resultant resultant force is 0 Newton. 0 Newton. That is how we have to understand about that. Well, we try to understand the first law of motion. For you to have a screenshot, I will shrink all down, shrink all down. Okay. Now we started to study this one. I'm going to share the screen. We have a screenshot. Okay. Shall I share the screen?
Okay, sir.
You can have that one. Can you?
Yes, sir.
Just think of this one. This is today's lesson. Today is on page 9, 2021. What? The mother and father might be happy to see that they have created a socially supporting type to the world. The next part, we can have a screenshot. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Should I increase the size? No,
This is okay.
it's okay. What about the others? No problem. Right. Then I'm going to stop sharing. Do you want me to have the share the screen always?
No, sir.
Yeah, stop share. Now, second law of motion, Newton, second law of motion. Newton, second law of motion. Second law of motion. Second law of Newton, second law of motion. Second law of motion. I don't know your message came. I know. Is it a message from somebody else?
No, sir. I uploaded the
Hi.
screenshot.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, super. That's super. Somebody who can have it, we can take it from there. And Newton's second law of motion. Participants. I think there are some new participants from Bandaraville. It's very cold today. They are my correct Bandaraville children. Yes, we couldn't hear you. No, we couldn't hear. Your mic is not working, seems to be. No, can't hear. The mic seems to be not working. Okay. Newton's second law of motion. I'm going to write it as it is in the textbook and then analyze it with the basics that we got right at the beginning. Remember, this is not a theory class, but just like theory class today, right? That's how I do. Normally, I give you the basic introduction about the theories of the particular lesson and then start to give you the questions. So now we have discussed so many questions by using the other one. With the explanations only, you have to draw your attention logically to the questions that created in and around the question. But second law of motion, the acceleration of a body, the acceleration of a body, the acceleration of a body, the acceleration, the acceleration of a body, of a body, the acceleration of a body is directly proportional to the directly proportional proportional to the unbalanced force to the unbalanced force, unbalanced force acting on it, acting on it while while inversely proportional, inversely, INVERSEL, inversely proportional, proportional, inversely proportional to its mass, inversely proportional to its mass. Going to analyze step by step. The acceleration of a body is directly proportional to the unbalanced force, uh, the unbalanced force acting on it, while inversely proportional to mass, to its mass. And remember not to do this mistake. When you are writing the word its, don't write like this. You might feel like of writing, putting the apostrophe s. For the any sort of pronouns, you don't have apostrophe to show the possession. For the possessive pronouns, we don't write apostrophe there. When you put the apostrophe, it indicates it has or it is. It is or it has. So most of the children, when they write this one, they write the apostrophe to show the possession. No, you don't. You should not write that one there, right? And uh, then the acceleration of a body is directly proportional to the unbalanced force. We're talking about the force now. When the acceleration acceleration is directly proportional, acceleration is directly proportional to unbalanced force applied. Unbalanced. The acceleration of not directly proportional to the unbalanced force applied. Unbalanced. Balanced force means the zero. That means the resultant force is zero. But this time, the force I applied has a value. The resultant force is not zero. It has a value. So the acceleration of the object, like here what I draw, the acceleration of this object, and I'm going to exert a force now. Now it has a magnitude, and that force will increase the velocity. That will increase the velocity. A nice example. You can this experience I have. I don't know whether you have this one. You definitely might have, right? You will be walking with your friend with a nice chat. You know, you are going with your friends talking about that Uncle Sir's class is wonderful. You know, we attended that class. It's really good. Or really, when did you attend? If you're doing it nicely, so you will be talking and you will be walking along the corridor where, but your velocity is constant. because you are not bothered about any other things, right? But suddenly, a running child, a, a child of your friend who is running fast might be coming, right? This child is coming fast. So this child is coming fast and will be pushing you off. He will push you off. Then what happens? So you are walking and will be pushed upward or pushed forward. Why? An unbalanced force is applied. This child applied an unbalanced force on your body. So as a result, you suddenly moved forward. So unbalanced force from the moving object exerted on you, so you move. Acceleration. He has acceleration depended on the unbalanced force. So this is the force here. I can have an extra adjective that it is unbalanced. It's unbalanced. And next one, unbalanced force. The mass of it inversely proportional, inversely proportional to the mass of it. Mass of it. Mass should be taken in kilogram, right? So you know that it is very true that you can't. It is very easy to push a small force than a very big force. The force you exert is 2 Newton here. Which one will be moving faster? Is that X or Y? Is it X or Y that moving faster? The fast moving object will be Y. No, will be X because uh, it is inversely proportional. The acceleration is inversely proportional to mass of it. When the mass is very high, acceleration is low. When the mass is very low, acceleration is high. So now we have the question. From there we can have uh, acceleration is directly proportional to unbalanced force applied and inversely proportional to mass of it. So then we can have a combination that acceleration is equal to what? We can have F equal ma, then acceleration is equal to F divided by mass. You can have a constant value there and finally lead into equation. The magic triangle. You can have a magic triangle from there. What is this magic triangle? Magic triangle is for someone who is a little bit weak in math. This is the magic triangle, right? Magic triangle, triangle. I don't know my lesson is okay with you. Are you happy about the today's proceeding?
Yes, sir.
What about the others? Are they sleeping?
Yes.
You say you are sleeping, no? This is magic triangle. You can have the magic triangle. What's it? Uh, Magic triangle. Come over here. Now you can have blue one. Other. It's a magic. Now F. Put F over here. M over here. A over here. F equal MA. So from this one, you can write F equal F equal MA. F equal MA. F equal M multiplied by A. This is multiplication. And you can have here, if you want to find out M, F divided by A. So then you can have F but M equal M equal M equal F divided by A. F divided by A. And if you want to find out acceleration, then you can have for acceleration, you can write A equal F divided by M. F divided by M. By using this, you can calculate the questions given to you at any time. We can have some sort of questions by using Newton's second law of motion. And when going further with the Newton's law of motion, applying to the graphical representation here. Now, uniform acceleration is there. Uniform deceleration is there. Uniform acceleration to the opposite direction is there. Right. As we are going to discuss about the acceleration, the graphical representation of the motion can be used to make some questions. And I'm going to show you that application from here onwards. Let's go to that part. I'm touching some of your uh, headache causing area. I'm going to have a little relax, I believe. Right. Now, look at this object. This is an object. Right. Its velocity time graph is given. Its velocity time graph is given. Its velocity time graph is given. Right. Velocity in meters per second. This one, time in second, 0. And there is something like this. There's something like this. So you got something like here, dot, and then dot, 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 dot. If this is 20, if this is 20, and if this is 10, and if this is 10, right? So you can have the question blended with the Newton's second law of motion. Blended with the second law of motion. First one, I'm going to make some questions. Number one, number one. The question is this one. The graph given, the graph given depicts DEPICTS, the motion of an object, motion of an object. The graph given depicts the motion of an object. For your convenience, I'm going to refer share it. Okay. The graph given depicts the motion of an object. Answer the question. Answer the question. UESTIONS. Answer the questions followed. WO WED. WOWED. Followed by. This is the graph, and then try to answer by using the graph. Number one, Roman number one. What is the what is the initial velocity? Initial velocity. What is the initial velocity? Second one, what is the final velocity? Velocity. What is the final velocity? Third one. Third one. Find the acceleration. Find the acceleration achieved within 10 seconds. Within 10 seconds. Within 10 seconds. And my fourth question, if the mass of the object, if the mass of the object, if the mass of the object is 500 grams, calculate the force required to achieve above acceleration. ACCELERATION. Find Yeah. So these are the questions that I'm going to refer to this graph and then try to answer these questions. I will give you a little time and try your best to find the answers for them if you like to have it. Or should I discuss that one? I have been talking, and writing to you nearly 1.5 hour period. I'm going to have a little rest if you like. Try to find the answer for this one. Initial velocity, the final velocity, acceleration. Someone is coming right now. Hey, you should get up or wake up early morning. Give me the feedback, after this class or this is going on live on YouTube and you can get the YouTube recording and can share the links with your friends, those who are not attending my revision class. This is totally free. Anybody in Sri Lanka can join with this one. If they contact me and send me a WhatsApp number, then we would send you the link to join with the revision class and hoping that to help you. We have been doing this one since last year, March, when the COVID-19 was out. This is my contact details: 07181 46183 and a WhatsApp message. What so you can go to uh, no, .com. That's my web page, answer.com. Email. Yep. Finish.
Yes,
What about the others? Finish?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the questions like this, right? And uh, like if you were worried before watching this one, this revision class one, and after you studying my explanations and all, and then finally if you can answer this, you could answer this one, and then you are happy, means we are successful in our effort. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this one and going to the screen. Is it okay? Yeah.
okay, sir.
Try to find the answers. Right. I'm going to write the answers here in order to find the space, right? In order to find the space, I'm going to write here. Kuliapita children, I saw a very sad news in the morning that the manager of the singer Sri Lanka, Kuliapita, passed away. I saw that. He's a good man. He's a father. And one of my friends as well. Anyway, first one. What is the initial velocity? What is the initial velocity? That's the first question. What is the initial velocity?
10 meters per
Init-
second.
yeah, initial means the starting velocity. you refer to start and end, start end by considering the time. You have to consider the time. So starting time is 0, end time is 10, right? Consider the start in x-axis and then find out the relationship with the y-axis, how it deviates. Initial velocity, then when it starts, it's not 0, but 10, and your answer should be 10 meters per second. 10 meters per second is the answer for the initial velocity. My second question, second question, my second question is 10 meters per second. What is the final velocity? Final velocity within the particular period of time, right? By the 10 second, it has achieved 20 meters per second. 20 meters per. The final velocity is 20 meters per second. And third, find the acceleration achieved within 10 seconds. Right. When method, the place where you get sometimes wrong application, you might write acceleration equal change in velocity, don't write, change in velocity divided by change, change in time, which is wrong application, You know, the questions by using the velocity and the time, you can have two types of questions that goes in two directions. The first direction is no any graphical representation is only based on the statement and the equation. For example, an object of which initial velocity is 20 meters per second increased its velocity up to 30 meters per second within 10 seconds. So then you can ask, what is its acceleration? There you are writing acceleration equal change in velocity divided by change in time. There's no any graphical representation applications there, but you will be given a graph with the initial velocity 20, final velocity 30, blast, then draw this one, and then you are asked to find out the acceleration. There you can't write acceleration equal change in velocity divided by change in time. No, there you have to refer to the graph. How are you going to apply your knowledge to the graph? You can say acceleration equal change in y divided by change in x, because acceleration is taken by the gradient. When you draw the graph according to y equal mx plus y, sorry, mx plus c, there you can subject, you can take m as acceleration, and then you can have y upon x, right? Change in y, change in x. So I'm going to refer that one here and avoiding this one. So don't do that mistake, because it may be not the correct approach, but finally you will come to the same answer. The same answer. If it is essay type questions, you are asked to write the steps, and then you have to use the correct step. It depends on whether the marks are given this one or not. Depends on the standard quality of your paper. There can be something like this. If you can remember the scholarship exam held last year, you know, there are about 10 cases those who got 200 marks out of 200, which is very much rare. And the earlier years, you could not see that even a single student to score 200 marks. Means the question paper was very much easy and many scored high marks, and the authority was in trouble in allocating or naming the leading the schools. I could see that many parents kept asking whether they could join with us in our college. Mine is Ananda College, Kalabuten. And many parents wanted to come in, and then they asked the possibility, the reasonable approach test that last year the students who got 183, even they were able to come into the Ananda College, and this time it's not possible. Yes, it's not possible because the paper was easy, 200 cases 10, and then big problem. So O-level exam is also the same. If many students have scored A passes for science, A passes for mathematics, right? Without any hesitation, they would select to do their higher studies in biology or physical sciences. I mean, referring to the math stream. But it is not possible because if you have a very standard test paper, and then from there you are scoring A pass, that would tell you that you are very much qualified enough, and basic requirement is fulfilled to do your studies in biology and maths stream for your A-level classes. But when the more cases are there who got A passes, even someone who is to score B pass because of the papers standard drops down and it's easy, and then the A passes are taken, so that's not a good thing. So in that occasion, if the paper is too easy and many children score in more than 75, and the authority or the examiners who set the paper are in trouble to decide, get the proper approach. If you say that the graph should be like this, it should be like this. If this is 50, 60 more, this is frequency, and marks, this should be leading somewhere here, but the result is going like this. Many cases are there who scored 70 and 100, which is not fair in the test. So in order to get it backward, the question, the answers you have given will be strictly analyzed and marked. In that case, if they can say, if the the steps are taken not like referring to the graph, but referring to this one, marks are not given reduced. So, because the examiners want um, to manage your marks and manage the graph, keeping in the middle. So then you will be victimized if you have not taken, if you have not followed the proper steps that you should take. Okay. Well, thank you for listening to that one. I'm going back to our lesson. So I will be using here, coming back, I'll be using the graphical representation. So I'm going to take the equation. What? Final velocity minus initial velocity. Final velocity is final y, and initial y, final x, and initial x. So when you subtract final y, initial y from final y, so you will get y over there. And from when you subtract final x from initial x, then you will get the x there, right? I'm going to use that one. Acceleration equal, uh, yeah, third one. Acceleration equal gradient, gradient, means change in, change in y, change in y, change in y, divide by change in x, change in y, divide by change in x, change in x. So change in y, what was the value of y? Here, 2010, right? Change in y, so you can say final y, finally not final y minus initial y divide by final x minus initial x. Now you know final y is 20 meters per second. Initial y 10 meters per second. If I am correct, 20 meters per second, 10 meters per second. And the other one, divide by final x, 10 second, 10. I will push this downward. Down. 10 second minus 10, 0 second, 0 second. So ultimately you will get 20 meters per second divided by 10 second. The answer is 1, 2, 2 meters per second squared. So the acceleration is 2 meters per second squared. And my next question is, if if the mass of the object is 500 grams, calculate the force required to achieve above acceleration. Mass is 500 grams. Then I'm going to the fourth question. Fourth question. Fourth question.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, 20 minus 10, 10 है.
I'm sorry. This should be 10. I have to. Sorry. Sorry. Incorrect on the spot. 20 minus 10. I write it again, write it there. 20 minus 10 is 10 meters per second. 10 seconds is 1 meters per second squared. Only one child corrected me. What's next one? Yeah. What's next one? I was confused with that. If the mass of the object is 500 grams, calculate the force required to achieve above acceleration. Well, according to the according to Newton second law of motion, second law of motion, unbalanced force applied, F equals ma and m equals 500 upon 1000 kilogram. Acceleration. Okay. I put 2 right earlier, it is wrong. I didn't reduce it, and it's 1. 1 meters per second square. Ipuna, you didn't see that one. Over.
Done, sir.
So when I made the mistake here, you did not correct me.
So I was not here.
Just, but then, it is a little tired to stay here and talking and writing and lots of things, concentrating your mind, one and then two. So what's the answer? What's the answer?
0.5
0.5 Newton. 0.5 Newton force is required to increase that velocity. In order to increase the velocity from 10 meters to 20 meters, right? To increase the velocity from, right, 10 meters per second to 20 meters per second, right? You need to have 0.5 Newton force. Then only it increases. So if you are riding a bicycle, it's of course not 500 grams. If you are riding a bicycle with a constant velocity, in order to increase it, you have to put some extra force. So we can calculate it, right? Right. I'm going back now to our lesson. The third Newton law of motion. Second law of motion we used, and we can have some more calculations that I will be using next Sunday to have more questions. Now I have given you all the elaborations and the theories relevant to that one is related by relating the knowledge of the second lesson, that's motion of an object in a straight path. So the third law of motion is pretty easy. Third law of motion, let's write that one, and then, yeah, third law of motion. Third law of third law of motion. That is Newton's third law of motion. What is it? Yeah, what is it? I'm going to find it out. Third law of motion. Can you read out? For every action, there is an equal. Every action. For every action. Every action. For every action. There is. There is. Equal. That's equal. And opposite. Opposite. Yeah. For every action, there is an equal, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Actually, I would like to have, rather than using and, but. I mean, when you are talking about something opposite, you have to use but or however, right? For every action, there is an equal but opposite reaction. But well, your textbook says it's and, so I put that one. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So we are referring the force. We are referring the force, right? I told you I started with the force. If you are walking, if you are walking, if you are walking, and you are exerting, you are exerting, right? A force downward from the foot you are exerting. Imagine that 150 Newton. You are exerting 150 Newton. You know what does the flow do? It exerts. It exerts 150 Newton force on you. Right? When you exert 150 Newton downward, it also exerts 150 Newton on you as well. So then you are moved upward. Right? That's how it works. Imagine that the bird which is perched on the bird which is perched on uh, bird which is perched on a branch. There is a branch and bird is perched on that one. The bird perched on that one and want to fly away, right? It want to fly away. What it can do is it will spread up its wings. The bird is perched on a branch and then start to spreads its wing, spreads its wing, right? So then when it spreads its wing, right? So that means he is going to exert downward force, exert downward force, and the air exerts in return the same amount of force upward. If he exerts 10 Newton force, 10 Newton force, and the air exerts 10 Newton force upward and resulting to move, push upward, the bird will be starting its flight. It will take its flight upward. So there are incidents, something like that. Launching, uh, when launching a boat, when launching a boat, so you can, it's the dockyard, right? So the water and the boat is over there, right? The person is on the boat, wanting to launch the boat. So what it does is take a, a stick and then keep it on the ground and then push from there. Push, he exerts maybe 50 Newton force on the stick, right? So the ground will exert 50 Newton force in return and resulting to have a first motion of this boat into the sea. So it will be moving towards the sea as a result. So these are the applications of Newton's third law of motion. To give you the whole summary of the lesson, I would shrink my uh, screen. I will shrink my screen. We can have, okay, this is what we have been discussing today. This is what we have been discussing today. Right. Give me 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Is it clear enough? Is it clear enough, children?
Yes, sir.
Do you want me? Do you want me to increase its size?
No, sir.
And next one, take your screenshots. And next one, uh, little, want more shrinking. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
Right. So we have come to the end of the today's session. We have been discussing about nearly 2 hours. We start every day from 4 a.m. Every Sunday, every Sunday, every Sunday, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. every Wednesday, EVNESDAY from 9 p.m. and 30 p.m. every Thursday from 9 p.m. to 10:30. Okay? Those are your revision classes. Theory, Saturday. Goodbye for you if you want. Grade 10, grade 10 from 10:30 to 12:30 p.m. This is a.m. For grade 11 from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. 4-hour class with paper discussion as well. Discussion as well. So this is what you can come and join with us for more information content. 7181 461 83 on our number and refer our number.com. That's a kind of promotion. Okay. And wish you a wonderful, pleasant day. See you Friday.
Thank you, sir. Have a good
Yeah,
day,
Okay,
sir.
sir. Goodbye, sir.
yeah, this
Thank you,
information.
sir. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Take care. And give me your feedback.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.